I'm Mel and this is my floss tube channel, Stitching with Mel. Thank you for joining me for floss tube number 11. Today is Monday, March the 9th, 2026. So I'm filming slightly early, but I have finished my stitching for today. It's a public holiday, so I was able to stitch a lot earlier than I would have if I was at work. So I thought I would get my filming done tonight instead of tomorrow when I got home, so I can spend more time stitching tomorrow. Thank you for joining me to see my progress. I do hope that you enjoy what you see and what I've got to show you this week. If you do hear weird noises, my dog has decided that he wants to be in here too while I'm filming. He hasn't wanted anything to do with me all day, but the second I came in here, he thought I have to go in there too. I think this is about the 5th time that I've started filming because he keeps making weird noises. He has burped, he has scratched around, he has just been very noisy, but I think that any noises he makes now, he seems to be settling a bit more. I'm more likely just snoring, so I do apologize, but there's not much I can do about it. He doesn't want to leave. So a little bit about me. I am a predominantly full coverage stitcher, but I do have some projects that are non-full coverage. I stitch all of my projects with the called for DMC on either 20 count Ada, 2/1 full cross, or 28 count even weave, 1/1 full cross. And I stitch most of my projects using Stitching Mummy's typewriter method, choosing a symbol in a 10 by 10 square and stitching it out as far as I can, parking where necessary, and working just in the space. So I stitch mine in a 8 by 8 Q-snap. So if I hit the end of that Q-snap space that I'm working in, I will just park it until the next time when I move the Q-snap. A couple of weeks ago, I had a viewer ask about my master set, and I apologize. I didn't mention it last week. I did realize after I posted the video that I had left it out. So I thought I'd just pop it in here really quickly with how I set up my master set. So I just have floss drops on rings here with pip and chip labels. I'll see if I can link them below, but if not, if you just search pip and chip, you'll see their range. So they do have their own floss drops with the label built in that have 2 holes, so the normal hole and a smaller one for your extra strands once you've used them. But I already had floss drops before I purchased them. So these floss drops, I got most of them from my mum. She had spares. And then ordered the remainder to top up to get all of them. And they're just custom made from a laser shop here in Melbourne, Victoria. But I do believe they're a really similar size to Annie's Keepers. Annie's Keepers with postage is just quite expensive to get in Australia. So I just have them sorted onto multiple of these rings, and then they just hang beside me on the, I've got a nursery clothes hanger that I got from Kmart, and they just hang next to me. It's quite difficult to get a picture of because I've got a lot of stuff in there, so you'll just get all of that as well. It's a bit hard to see, but if I can find a picture, if it's still available on Kmart, I will post it in here now, so you can see. And they're just next to my chair, and I just pull off strands and then put the ones back when I've used them. Now mine are quite long for the projects that I stitch 2/2 because I use the loop start, so it's a lot easier to have long lengths. And then, but if I'm working on my 28 count with 1/1, I just snip the piece in half and just use half. It just prevents it knotting. I find that if they're too long, I just end up making a mess of them and they knot, and that frustrates me. So I just chop them before I start and then keep going. And then when I run out of, say, 500, I have a spare in a cupboard and I can replace it, and then I leave the little bag that they live in, just Ziploc bags from the supermarket, so I know to order another one. Any of the big colors, or if I know that there's a heap of something in a project, I will order extras so that I have multiples in stash, because I'll probably go through them quicker. But things like 310 and 939 and those sorts of colours that are in nearly every single project, I have extras spare just in case, because they'll get used a lot quicker and potentially I won't be able to order them, because obviously I like to save up a little bit of an order to do it so that postage is worthwhile. So that is how I stitch and what I stitch. So let's get into the week. So the week ended up being quite good. I am surprised. So I did work on all 8 projects and got 4,000 stitches in this week. I did not expect to hit that many stitches or get through all my projects, because during the week last week I didn't stitch that much. I had extra things on and I was incredibly tired, because we'd had really humid nights, so sleep was really difficult, and I just didn't get much done. I'm really happy. Today was a public holiday, so I think I ended up in the 3 days, Saturday, Sunday and today, I think over those 3 days I stitched about 3,200 stitches. So I only got 800 done for the other 4 days. So yeah, if I'd actually stitched more on those days, maybe I would have got 5,000 this week. But life is life and you can only do what you can do. And I'm still happy I hit 4,000. I like to aim for 3,500 as my baseline goal, with 4,000 being what I'd actually like to achieve each week, and anything over that I consider a bonus. So I hit my happy goal, so I'm happy with 4,000 for the week. So let's get into the projects. So the first one I've got to show is Temperate Garden by Zahara Designs Studio on Etsy. This is stitched on 20 count opalescent Aida. So it's just a white lurex Aida. And as you can see, I've started the March flower. So last week I showed you the end of February, and this week I've started into March. So I put 200 stitches into this one this week. So I'm now at 1,891 out of 10,385, and I'm at 18.21%. So this is the third flower. So there's 3 different flowers in this, and then they get repeated at varying heights to make the pattern. So yeah, this is the last one. I was quite happy to start the month. So the middle of the month this time started in the middle, and it was 30 degrees. So it was a yellow. And I don't know about anyone else, but when I was a kid and used to draw flowers, I always put yellow as the middle. So it's fun to have at least one flower that just reminds me of how I drew them when I was a kid. Obviously, the petals are not like what I drew when I was a kid. I guess this one probably is the closest. But usually they were all the same color, obviously, but I liked having that yellow in the middle. I find that whilst this is a very simple piece, which is what I like the simplicity of it, they're actually a lot more challenging to stitch than you imagine. Not so much challenging, they are literally one color per petal or leaf. So it is just block stitching, but it's not as simple as a normal pattern. So first, especially in the flowers, you have to work out which number, petal, and bit relates to the day. Once you get into the leaves, obviously it just works your way down, but the petals vary. So number 1, I think, was this one last month, and then it's in the middle this time, so it's very hard to know. And I always find, so I started with day 3 because it was the closest, so the least amount of counting. Then you have to work out what temperature it was that day. Then you have to cross-reference and find out what color. So every degree is a different color in this one. And then you can start stitching. And obviously it's non-full coverage, so there's a lot of counting and counting off things to find out exactly where you've got to stitch. So it takes a lot longer than it would take me if I was just stitching it. If this was in a pattern, because it is in Pattern Keeper, but each flower just has 2 colors, so you can discern where to stop the stem mostly, to what color it relates to. If you're stitching just from Pattern Keeper, it will be a lot quicker, but being a temperature piece, it does take a bit longer. But I do really enjoy stitching on these temperature pieces, so I will do another one next year. What one, I'm not sure. I'll start to have a look later in the year, but definitely enjoy these. So yes, that's that one. The next piece I worked on was my Focus on a Finish. So it's Temperature Gnomes by the Soda Stitch on Etsy. This is stitched on 20 count Ada in the colour Night by Paddock Lane Designs. So this week I put 1,300 stitches into this one, bringing it to a total of 1,600 out of 2,109, and it's at 75.87%. And this is gnome number 7 out of 8 for the year. And I worked out, I think I must have done my sums wrong at some point in time. So I recalculated today and I have 2,219 stitches plus any backstitch to go to get these 2 finished. So very close, just a couple of weeks and they'll be done. So I'd started with the main red color in this, which is 321, and I stitched all of that out. And then I started with the color with the least amount of stitches and I'm working up to the most. So I just have this brown to go, and then the white, and obviously all the snowflakes in the white, and this one will be done. So this was quite good. I was a little worried because obviously I hadn't done any of this brown at this stage, and I'd done the base of the eyes. They're in a grey, so that's not white, that's grey. And then I was doing this dark brown and I noticed that they were lopsided, and after the last one with the weird eye, I was a little concerned. So I did pull up the cover picture again, but it is an expressive look that he'll have on his face. So I have left them as crooked, and I think it will come together a bit more once all that stitching is in, because his eyes will be white, not the grey of the fabric, and there's still part of this brown to continue into here. So I think that when it comes together, he should look a lot better. He's sort of got like a cheeky sort of look on his face. So hopefully this one should be okay with weird eyes. But it is a good one. I'm liking these ones are a little bit different, so it feels like there's a little bit more variety than there was for a little while. But again, I will be happy to get them finished, but I think I will miss them a little bit as well, but we'll have something else to replace it with, and that will be exciting too. And my last focus piece for the week, and also one of my wheel spin technically, because there's one less project this week, being week 3, was Dizzy. This is a custom piece by Cross Stitch for Everyone of my dog Dizzy, who is currently asleep on his bed in here. So I put 1,000 stitches in on him this week. He is stitched on 20 count Ada. So he now has 22,000 out of 57,600 stitches. He's at 38.19%. And so I just finished off the last little bits from his face and worked across. I'll open it up actually, because a lot of this colours went down. So this probably shows it a bit better. So yeah, a lot went down here. There's a lot of the light from the white of his chest and other parts of him that went down and then went into this background. But that's what I worked on this week. And I love, so I finished his face. So I'm really happy with how that has turned out. And technically, one more stitchy session of 500 should finish that row, but they'll probably go down the stitches a bit, so I might not quite get it across. I don't think I'll park everything to get there. I think I'll just work how it needs to work. So I just wanted to talk, I'll bring it in a little bit so it's easier to hold. Ooh. A bit more about his face. So I think he looks stunning. I think it looks exactly like my dog. I think his expression is super accurate, and it is adorable, but it is the weirdest project to stitch. Particularly when I first started and was working up the top. So the colors are quite strange and can be quite blocky in sections, and a weird contrast. You can go from 939 to maybe 838 really quickly, and when you look really closely, it looks a bit weird. But obviously, when you hold him up, the further back you get, the more expressive he gets and the better detail. But if you pull it right in, you can see it's sort of big, just chunks, and he looks quite weird. So anyone that is stitching one of these, when you do start stitching him or your dog, I can't say him because your dog might not be him, trust the process. That's all I can say, because he looks amazing and I am so happy with him. But working on him has had moments where I've really questioned the charting, but trust the process, trust the pattern, because it will look good. So I did have a mention from Holy Chicken Crafts. I apologize. So she had been looking for a chart of her dog for a long time, who is mixed breed, and hadn't found one, and then stumbled across my channel and saw Dizzy and got her dog Izzy charted. What a coincidence. They have very similar names. And she showed her mock-up in her video. So she has 2 videos out, and she showed the mock-up of her dog. She's only stitched a little over 1,000 and in the background, so you can't see any dog. And she's chosen a completely different background to what I have, and it looks amazing. So I think she'll be really happy with that too. But yeah, if you are stitching it and you think, oh, I'm not sure about this, trust it, because it does come together surprisingly well. I don't know how it works, but it does work. So then we'll get into the wheel spins. So I spun the wheel last week to see the order that I stitched in. Obviously I only had 5 projects left, so they were the ones that came up, but I did spin for the order. All of these got 300 stitches. So the first one is Crystal Rose by Sara Schute, charted by the Cross Stitch Studio. And I'm still just working in the top row here. It's not a bit shadowy. I apologize, we are in autumn, so we are getting closer to daylight savings ending. So it's, I think, about 20 past 6 here, and the sun has started to go down, so I am losing a bit of light earlier than normal. But this one is now at 8,900 out of 199,500 for 4.46%. And so I just kept working in this top bit of yellow across here. And that is where I have got to. So this one does take a lot longer than you would anticipate. There are a lot of colors in here, a lot of color changes. So it's a lot of confetti. So it does take a lot longer than you would think. It's not just a couple of colors of yellow. But it's very interesting. I find block stitching can be quite boring. Ninja stitches I do not like. They're often necessary, but I don't like them. But confetti is enjoyable and interesting, and adds dimension and makes the end product look amazing. So I enjoy doing it. It's just a little bit slower than sometimes it looks. But that one was good. The next one I spun was Waterhole Master by David Penfold. This is on 20 count Ada. And I misjudged what I could get done, or where my 300 stitches will get me. So I don't think it looks like as much as it probably could. Let me try and tuck that round. So I put my 300 stitches in on this one, and it is now at 88,100 out of 258,125, and it's at 34.13%. So I was just filling in this section. So I think from around here. I was hoping to get through a lot more of this, considering a lot had been stitched already. But it is tree. Anyone who has stitched a full coverage tree in particular would understand the confetti held that goes along with them. They look great when they're finished, but they are awful to work on. And this project has a lot of trees, a lot more trees than I noticed. This was my first full coverage when I started stitching. So I didn't know to look for trees. I mean, I probably still would have chosen it, but there are a lot of trees. So yeah, I didn't quite get as far as I wanted in here. I was hoping to sort of get across to around here, but a lot of the stitches carried out and have gone across into this section. So yeah, I severely misjudged. I mean, there's still 300 stitches in there. I still hit my goal of 300. It just doesn't look like as much as I wanted. I'll unfold it and see. So this is just the regular size and the regular colors. So yeah, that one is good to work on. I will be very happy when I get out of tree, although I sort of come back into the next row and do a tiny bit more sky and then get back into tree. So because of how I've stitched it in the past, I'm going to be living in that tree for quite some time. Again, it will look great when it's finished, but it is a hard slog. There is a lot of ninja stitches as well as confetti, so it takes a long time and it doesn't look like a lot of progress. Eventually it will all fill in and it will look good, but for now it doesn't. The next one that was spun is Otter in the Water by Cross Stitch for Everyone. This is stitched on 28 count even weave. And this one's the same. I did not get as far as I thought I would. So I'll bring it in a bit closer first. So I was working in this section here of the top of the otter. I was hoping to get through to the other side, but I still have, I think, I'm up to about here. So I still have quite a bit of otter to go. But it's going to have incredible detail when it is finished, and obviously a lot of these stitches have carried down, so the next row is quite full. So those colors I shouldn't need to do in the next row. It'll be whatever other colors are in that row. So I did start at this bubble, which was ninja stitches, and then carried it across. But it just doesn't look like as much for 300 stitches. So it is at 10,600 out of 111,890 and 9.47%. But yeah, can't wait to see more of the otter. I just need to be a bit more realistic that I won't get it to look like a lot for a while, because it's so confetti heavy. It'll take up a bigger space before it fills in completely. But that's okay. 300 is still 300. The next one I spun is Harvest Moon, also by Cross Stitch for Everyone. This is also stitched on 28 count even weave. And I was still just working in the dark night sky in the middle. So this now has 2,300 stitches out of 131,769 for 1.75%. So it's just working in here. So these are all filled in. It's just there's light grey, so they're not actually missed stitches. They're just the colour, the starry sky. Apologies, I just had an unplanned coughing fit. But yeah, this one's coming along. I think the halfway point of the top row is somewhere around here. So still quite a long way to go to get to the other side. But that's okay. I only started this at the very end of December, so it's coming along quite well. And the last one that I spun was Ying Yang Day and Night, the small version by Digital Art Club, charted by Stitches So Beautiful. And I just put in 300 stitches of 939 into this one. So this was block stitching, so it was very quick this morning. It is now at 2,400 stitches out of 64,770 for 3.71%. And it is halfway in this block is the end of the first page, the top row. So not too much to go to get that top row, but yeah, most of it. So the rest, it'll be another 300 of 939 in the next stitchy session, and then come down to the next row. This one's almost 50% 939, so there's a lot, even though it's a small piece, so stitch wise it's not that many compared with a lot of other projects, but yeah, nearly 50% is 939, so the whole outside and then bits in the center are 939. But it's the subtle details that I really think will give it its dimension, but I don't think this will come to life until it's very, very far past. So those were my wheel spins. I did forget to mention that about Dizzy, so I'm just going to pull that out again really quickly. So I did want to say this if I unfold my fabric. So right here where I've stitched down to, that is the middle point of the pattern. So where those bits come down to at the bottom, that is the center. So even though there's still quite a bit to go, there is really only 3 rows plus the little bit I've got at the end, and I will be at 50%. So there's still a lot of stitches to get to that 50%, but it was very exciting to see that red dot on Pattern Keeper. Seeing a milestone, even if you're not ready to hit it, I think is quite exciting, especially the middle point on a full coverage if you're stitching from the top. So yeah, like I said, I'm not there yet, but it was fun to see. Ooh, I think they're all going to fall down. So they were my projects for the week. I'm happy with my progress and where I got to on them. So I am going to set up on my tablet to spin the wheel and get 6 projects. Once I've spun, I'm going to write them down. I will then pause and pull those projects to show you where I'll be starting from. So I'll just pause while I get this ready. Okay, so I've just reset the wheel, started the screen recording, and have shuffled it all so it's ready to go for this week. So we'll spin for 6 projects. I'll just note them down and then I will pull those projects and show you what I'll be working on. So the first one that I'm spinning will be Tangled Max. And the next one is Aquarius. The third project will be Daydreaming. The fourth one, sorry, will be Harvest Moon. So we've just done that one, but I will show you again. The fifth is What Cookie? And the last one is Ying Yang. So there's a few repeats from this week, but that's okay. It'll be fun to get some more progress into those and see a bigger jump in a shorter amount of time. So I'll just pause this video, get those projects ready, and in some Q snaps so you can see exactly where I'll be working. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm back and we'll show what projects that I'm going to work on this week. So as always, I will put work into Temperature Garden. So I'll just give a quick before here. You just saw it, so we won't go into too much detail, but I'll finish those flowers and start on the leaves. So I'll probably put 200 in on this one again. That seems to be working, and then when it gets to the end of the month, I'll do whatever's needed to get it to be completed. My focus on a finished piece, so sand gnomes. I'll go through, obviously I've already spoken about these this time, but I'll go through artists and fabric and everything when I show the progress, but this one will be a finish. So it only needs 500 and it will be finished, and then I'll put 500 in at least into the next one. So you will see a little finish next week, which will be good. Again, really quickly, we'll work on Dizzy. So I'll just work in this background. Like I said, I think I'll get about 500. I think that's probably around that, but depends how much stitch is down. So maybe a row finish, but I learnt my lesson this week. I'm not a good judge, so we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, and so the wheel spins. The first one I spun was Tangled Backs. So I'll just be bringing the black down in here, filling in some of the antler and this light here, see how much my 300 will get me. So I'll probably do another strand of black down here, and I think it comes out here as well. So I might do 2 strands of black and then work on some fill-in, just working my way down. So we'll see how far that gets me, and I'll obviously work in that parked thread. But there'll probably be more parked threads by the time I'm finished. There usually is. The next one I spun was Aquarius, and let's see if I can get that yellow flower of doom finished. The never-ending yellow flower. I feel like I have been working on this for so long that there are so many stitches in it. So I'm hoping that, I can't remember, but I do think I'm very close to the end. So again, depending on the confetti, see how long I go. I'd love to hit another color other than something that falls in that yellow. I think the next color I would hit would be 939. So let's hope I get to pull some 939, because that means I finished that yellow flower. Obviously, I've only finished one row of it, not the whole thing, but I would love a break from it, because it will still take me a very long time to get back to that point from the other side. The third one that I spun is Daydreaming. So this is all much lighter colors, but I'll be working in this second row along here. So it'll be a lot easier than the top row, and we're coming into this bit, so there's no edge work. It's all just filling in the 10 by 10 squares essentially. I don't work by filling in solely the 10 by 10 squares, but it's a lot easier than having to do these lines. The reason I have that is because I removed the white, so I did it to myself, but it's still nicer to have the square. I do much prefer full coverage stitching. I find it a lot easier. So hats off to those people that prefer non-full coverage, because I think it's harder. The next one we'll just show quickly again because I just worked on it is Harvest Moon. So we'll be working more in that blue sky. Potentially we might hit a leaf, but I'm not sure exactly where I'm up to. I'm anticipating just blue sky for that one. The next one I spun is What Cookie? This one's also close to a row finish, but I'm not sure if I will quite get there or not, because a lot of these colors are going down, but I will just work. I think we're coming back into the more of the background, so it should be quite quick. I think we've hit past the top. I think it was just a little bit of the top of the book, which is what carried it down. I think I'm back into background, which is about 3 colors, a lot more block stitching. So we'll see if I can get a row finish on that one. And the last one we just saw as well is Ying Yang, and hopefully I can get a row finish. And because it is solid 939, I am literally just going across. It won't carry down. And I think there is 300 left in that top row. And if not, I'm going to be so close that I will start the next row next time and then just do the extra couple of stitches if I'm not quite there the next time. So I won't get a row finish, but we'll count it as one anyway. So they are the projects that I'll be working on this week. So we'll see how it goes. I'll aim obviously to film on next Tuesday, but it seems to be varying. I may have to reconsider what day I film. If the light's already fading now, I worry what it will be like in even just a couple of weeks. And filming on Tuesday, I film when I get home from Melbourne. So it is around this time. I can't do it earlier. So I may look at, seeing as we're very close to finishing those gnomes, which is my focus on a finish, and we'll be doing a reshuffle and some new starts, I might look at week 3 of the wheel spins being a shorter week. Excuse me. Sorry, coughed again. I haven't coughed all day. But for some reason, now that I'm filming, it's decided that I'm going to cough. So, yeah, like I was saying, I might make that week a shorter week and start filming on a Sunday or something like that, so that I can film earlier in the day while there's a bit more light. And I think week 3 would be a good week, because I could wrap it up with and do less stitches, because there'd be less days, and line it up for a Sunday. So I might look at changing the days in the coming weeks, but I'll have a think a little bit more about my schedule, about the light, and what I think will work best. But I'll let you know, or I'll just pop up with a video early. We'll see what happens if I change my mind before then, but I think that would be a good week for a transition, because I think there would be less stitches required for the week, or I could make more adjustments. Yeah, depending on how it goes. We'll see how much I get in on the gnomes this week, for how much I have left each week, for how I work the transition. I have a couple of options for how I'm going to schedule my plans, but it all depends on how much I get into those ones as to when I do new starts and how I reshuffle my wheel once I get an actual finish. But that's all from me. I have nothing else that's interesting or extra. I will stop filming and try and take a photo of Dizzy now while he's sound asleep. He has stayed in here the whole time. You probably heard him scratch on the carpet as he rolls over. He's super noisy. He thinks he's teeny tiny and he is not. But I love him anyway. So I'll try and take a picture of how he's been sleeping and I'll pop it in at the end if I can get one. He does hate and seems to know when you pull the camera out on him, and he could wake up out of his deeper sleep and not let you take his photos. So we'll see how we go. So if I get one, I'll pop one in so you can see what he was like this whole time that I was filming. But otherwise, I will say goodbye. I hope everyone has a fantastic stitching week, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.